Hello, and happy day. How does slowing down sound to you today? Would you like to reduce the noise for just a bit? Are you ready to make a choice and decide to listen? My name is Igor S.F. Walker. I'm here to remind people to slow down, to reduce the noise, to walk their lives into a natural flow. Welcome back to the Book of the Week series. Every week as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world, and today we look at lost connections, uncovering the real causes of depression and the unexpected solutions by Johann Hari. We have, up to now, been looking only at the parts of the scientific studies that the drug companies want us to see. But Thomas More said there's a way beyond this. There's actually a way we can get access to all the data that the drug companies do not want us to see. And here's how. If you want to release a drug onto a U.S. market, you have to apply to the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, the official drug regulator. As part of your application, you have to submit all the trials you have conducted in full, whether they're good or bad, for your profit margin. It's like when you take selfies and you snap yourself 20 times, only to discard the 19 in which you look double chin or blurry-eyed. You post to Facebook or Instagram only the one where you look hot. Drug companies have to, by law, send the FDA the equivalent of all their selfies, even the ones that make them look fat. If you apply through the Freedom of Information Act for it, you will be able to see everything. Then we can figure out what is really going on. Depression and anxiety. It cannot just be a matter of chemical imbalance as verified by a checklist of symptoms. It would have to be seen as a response to your circumstances. The basic mistake our culture is making about pain way beyond grief. We do not consider context. We act like human distress can be assessed solely on a checklist that can be separated out from our lives and labeled as brain disease. We have to stop talking about mental health, which conjures pictures of brain scans and defective synapses, and start talking about emotional health. Why do we call it mental health? Because we want to scientize it. We want to make it sound scientific. But in fact, it is our emotions. People must belong to a tribe. Just like a bee goes haywire if it loses its hive, a human will go haywire if she loses her connection to the group. We have become the first humans to ever dismantle our tribes, and as a result, we have been left alone on a savanna we do not understand, puzzled by our own sadness. The message our culture is telling us about how to have a decent and satisfying life, virtually all the time, is not true. The more this was studied, the clearer it became. 22 different studies have found that the more materialistic and extrinsically motivated you become, the more depressed you will be. 12 different studies found that the more materialistic and extrinsically motivated you become, the more anxious you will be. Similar studies have now been carried out in Britain, in Denmark, in Germany, in India, South Korea, Russia, Romania, Australia, and Canada, and the results all over the world keep coming back the same. We have shifted from having meaningful values to having junk values. All these mass-produced fried chicken looks like food, and it appeals to the part of us that evolved into needing food, yet it does not give us what we need from food: nutrition. Instead, it fills us with toxins in the same way. All these materialistic values telling us to spend our way into happiness look like real values. They appeal to the part of us that is evolved to need some basic principles to guide us through life, yet they do not give us what we need from values, a path to a satisfying life. Instead, they fill us with psychological toxins. Junk food is destroying our bodies. Junk values are distorting our minds. If you believe that your depression is due solely to a broken brain, you don't have to think about your life or about what anyone might have done to you. The belief that it all comes down to biology protects you in a way for a while. If you absorb this different story, though, you have to think about those things, and that hurts. Your brain changes according to how you use it. Neuroplasticity is the tendency for the brain to continue to restructure itself based on experience. Your brain is constantly changing to meet your needs. It does this mainly in two ways. The pruning the synapses you do not use, and by growing the synapses you do use. For as long as you live, this neuroplasticity never stops, and the brain is always changing. Psychiatrists have in their training been taught something called the biopsychosocial model. They are shown that the depression and the anxiety have three kinds of causes: biological, psychological, and social. And almost nobody I know who has become depressed or severely anxious was told a story by their doctor. And most were not offered help for anything except for the brain chemistry. Be you, be yourself. We say it to one another all the time. We share memes about it. We say it to encourage people when they're lost or when they're down. Even our shampoo bottles tell us, because you're worth it. But what I was being taught is, if you want to stop being depressed, do not be you. Do not be yourself. Do not fixate on how you're worth it. It is thinking about you that helped to make you feel so lousy. So do not be you. Be us. Be we. Be part of the group. Make the group worth it. The real path to happiness comes from dismantling our ego walls and letting yourself flow into other people's stories and letting their stories flow into yours. From pulling your identity, from realizing that you were never you, alone, heroic or sad, all alone. An antidepressant isn't just a pill. It is anything that lifts your despair. The evidence that chemical antidepressants don't work for most people shouldn't make us give up on the idea of the antidepressant, but it should make us look for better antidepressants. And they may not look anything like we have been trained to think of them by Big Pharma. When there's pollution in the air that makes us feel worse, we ban the source of pollution. We do not allow factories to pump lead into our air. Advertising is a form of mental pollution. So there's an obvious solution. Restrict or ban mental pollution, just like we restrict or ban physical pollution. In 2007, the city of Sao Paulo government took a bold step. They banned all outdoor advertising, everything. They called it the Clean City Law. It is happiness, it is warmth, and it has a tender quality to it. It is also, like most people become your children, that same tender, warm happiness you do have for your child when they're having fun and they're happy or they get something they like. You can feel that for a complete stranger, and it is quite incredible. It's almost like at looking at them from the eyes of a loving parent that just wants someone they love to be happy and have good thoughts. And there's a tenderness to it for me. The false story is the claim that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain, and that the primary solution for most people is a chemical antidepressant. That story had made Big Pharma over $100 billion, which is one of the crucial reasons why it persists. The real story has been known to scientists for decades. Depression and anxiety have three kinds of causes: biological, psychological, and social. They're all real, and none of these three can be described by something as crude as the idea of a chemical imbalance. The social and psychological causes have been ignored for a long time, even though it seems that the biological causes do not even kick in without the other two. Mental health is produced socially. The absence of mental health is above all a social indicator, and therefore it requires social as well as individual solutions. The dominant biomedical narrative of depression is based on biased and selective use of research outcomes that cause more harm than good, undermine the right to health, and must be abandoned. For medications, we need to stop using them to address issues which are closely related to social problems. We need to move from focusing on chemical imbalances to focusing on power imbalances. You are not a machine with broken parts. You're an animal whose needs are not being met. You need to have a community. You need to have meaningful values and not junk values. You have been pumped full of all your life, telling you happiness comes through money and buying objects. You need to have meaningful work. You need the natural world. You need to feel you are respected. You need a secure future. You need connections to all these things. You need to release any shame you might feel for having been mistreated. You're not suffering from a chemical imbalance in your brain. You're suffering from a social and spiritual imbalance in how we live. You're being told depression and anxiety are misfirings of your brain chemicals. You will stop looking for answers in your life if your psyche and your environment and how you might change them. You will become sealed off in a serotonin story. You will try to get rid of the depressed feelings in your head, but that will not work unless you get rid of the causes of the depressed feelings in your life. We must not talk about solving depression and anxiety only through individual changes. To tell people that the solution lies solely and primarily in tweaking your own life would be a denial of so much of what I've learned in this journey. Once you understand that the depression is to a significant degree a collective problem caused by something that's gone wrong in our culture, it becomes obvious that the solutions have to be, to a significant degree, collective too. We have to change the culture so that more people are freed up to change their individual lives. Please, do help out. It is easy. You simply like this video so more people can enjoy it. You share it too and you spread the word. You subscribe to my channel and stay up to date. And the link to this book is in the description below, so buy it and read. Never stop learning. Thank you. Love and respect.